Lisa Schnebly Heidinger is celebrating Arizona with lots of interesting people, so you'll hear wonderful voices with new stories. Grab your favorite drink and settle in. We're celebrating Arizona, going everywhere from A to Z, and we're off.
Welcome to Celebrating Arizona. We are celebrating Arizona today with a new guest, Kristie O'Brien. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And you are an Arizonan from the beginning. That's pretty rare.
It is. I'm excited to tell people that I'm actually a native Arizonan.
There are not many. So tell me where you grew up and where you graduated and things like that. Give me a little rundown from the beginning.
So I was born in Mesa. I grew up in the East Valley. I grew up in Chandler, and I graduated from Dobson High.
Okay. And then you met somebody somewhere and talk about that.
Well, so after I graduated, I went to the East Coast for college. I was in Washington, D.C. for a number of years. I worked my way through graduate school. And then I actually met an Aussie, so I ended up moving to Australia for a number of years.
Holy smoke.
I went to law school in Australia, and then I also lived in the Netherlands, and then I came back to the States, and I came back to Arizona.
Oh my gosh, with an Aussie.
No, without the
No,
Aussie.
without the Aussie. Okay. But there are sons from somewhere. So fill in some more blanks. What else happened?
When I came home to Arizona, I decided to put down my roots here. I loved growing up in Arizona. I loved our sunsets no matter where I was at in the world. I always missed our weather and our sunsets, and I wanted to
Oh,
be close to family. So my mother and my sister's family are here, and my uncle. So I came back, and then I've stayed ever since. I am a single mom, and I have twin boys. And so it's been great to see them go through some of the challenges of growing up in Arizona, making sure you don't get burned from the water coming out of a hose in the summertime, and
I remember
managing.
that.
Yep, and managing, the playground, not burning on a metal slide. So
I'll
it's
be darned. And you are running for state senate in District 13, and your
correct.
boys are going door to door with you?
Yes, so they've knocked thousands of doors with me. We do one-on-one mommy time. So sometimes I'll take Caden, sometimes I'll take Colton, and they have fun. They're really engaged in the political process. They understand what I'm running for, and they love meeting our neighbors.
That is such a gift you are giving them. And the future of Arizona. You're giving Arizona a gift too by having them already aware. That is marvelous. What led you to that? How did you get to where you are?
I think my family, I grew up in a family of public servants. My mother was a social worker for 30 years. One of my grandfathers was a police officer. My other grandfather was a volunteer fireman. So being a part of the community was an extension of our family. And so I don't see it as anything different. I've been engaged since I was a teenager, and I want them to be engaged. I think we have stronger communities when we're engaged. And unfortunately, COVID had a lot of us shut down and shut in. And so we're still trying to reform that sense of community that we had before that.
I completely agree. Yeah. I was just talking to a cousin this morning, and when COVID hit, my church wasn't doing anything right. And I'd been a lector for since I was 15 years old, and I had to stop going to church.
Yeah.
And you're right. Our patterns got shattered, and we had to start over. So your boys were not yet in school, I hope, when COVID hit.
No. So they were preemies. They came at 32 weeks.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I know. So they were in the NICU for about 43 days. So, unfortunately, preemies, their immune systems don't get stronger until they're over the age of 3.
Oh my
So, the
gosh.
year they were scheduled to start preschool was the year it was starting to hit younger children. So, I made the choice with my pediatrician not to have them enroll that year. So, they didn't start preschool till they were 5.
Brilliant. And they're still with us? Are they robust
They're
and
they are robust, they are strong second
oh,
graders, and their teeth are falling out left and right.
just like they're supposed to though, not because they're being in
Yes,
fights.
they're little baby teeth.
Wonderful. Oh, that's terrific. And what do you and your boys like to do when you're not walking knocking on doors?
So when we're not knocking on doors, they love to play on the playgrounds. We go to a lot of different parks. They love to fish. We just started fishing last year. So the
Really?
three of us have our fishing license. And we love to hike, or we love to go see when the wildflower season is. We'll go for drives. For about 6 years in a row, we've had caterpillars that we get in the springtime, and then we have them turn into butterflies, and then we release them.
Oh my gosh, you are such a good mother. I
Oh,
never
thank
did
you.
any of those things, and I've never fished in my life. How did you know how to fish? I wouldn't even know where to buy a pole.
I I I didn't either. I actually went to one of the local park services was offering a fishing clinic, so I decided that would be fun to take the boys to, and then they taught me how to, put the hot dogs or the worms on the hook, and then they let us borrow their fishing poles for a day, and then we were able to catch some fish right away. So then Colton ended up putting in a prize drawing to win a fishing pole, and he won.
Oh
So
my
after
gosh.
that, I was like, okay, the pressure's on. I have to go buy two more fishing poles. And so we've been fishing since.
That is absolutely marvelous. That sounds like a fantasy childhood. To go fishing with your brother and your mom, that is such a beautiful thing you're doing.
Thank you.
Wow. And you've taken them out of the valley. Where?
Correct. Yes. So we've done some road tripping when they were little. They went up to the Four Corners.
Oh my
They've gone
gosh.
they've gone to the Grand Canyon. We've gone to Flagstaff. We've gone to Sedona. We've gone to Tombstone. And so I
That
still
is,
have a long list of to-dos.
but you have hit some of my absolute favorites. That is fantastic. Did they get a kick out of Tombstone? Or did you get a kick out of Tombstone?
They did. I think they were a little too young to remember it, so we're probably due to go back in a year or two.
Neat. That's wonderful. I didn't get to the Grand Canyon until I was 17.
Wow.
Natives, I think we think, oh, it'll be there. And we tend to not do things maybe as often as we should. But you didn't do that. Tell me your first time to the canyon.
So I know the first time I went was when I was young with my whole family. I didn't remember it, and then in high school, I had the opportunity to go with my aunt and a group out of the Air Force Base at Luke Air Force Base, and we went on an overnight trip. So we hiked down the canyon, spent the night, and then hiked back up the next day.
That is marvelous. Mercy. I've never done it. Good for you. You think you'll take them someday?
I will. It was very interesting because I remember it was February when I went. So at the
Ooh,
top was snow and ice. And then as we went down, it got warmer and warmer. And then so you're just in layers the whole day. So it was fun.
that is so great. And what else? What do you like about Arizona? You left and you went some amazing places and you came back. Family probably part of that.
Yes, definitely family first, but I just love obviously our climate. I know the heat is hot, but The fact that we have more sunshine than anything else. I love our sunsets. I don't think there's anywhere else in the world that gets prettier sunsets. And I love the people. I mean, I think we're tough. We're just like our weather. You gotta roll with it and face all the challenges. And we're unique and we're independent.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I agree with you. I just did a speech a couple of days ago to a group, and it's called Fierce Femininity. And the idea is in Arizona, you are not feminine by being fragile. You are feminine by being fierce. And if you were hiking the canyon at that age, you are fierce. That is a wonderful thing. That really is. And I agree with you also that if every I walk every day, and sometimes it's pretty hot. The overnight lows can be 90, and you think, "Oh, shoot!" But then I think, "Bring it, bring it." Well, I don't have a summer home. We're gonna do it again, and there is something to that. I think there's value to that.
I think so too. Although I do say I don't think I could have done it back in the pioneering days where they had to, soak their sheets in water and then hang them out on the patio. I'm addicted to the air conditioning.
I am too. And I'm sure if my great grandparents, my dad's grandparents were Sedona and T.C. Schnebly, and he named the town for her, and my dad loved growing up with that. But, and actually, even she didn't wear the whole regalia of women, what they would have normally worn back then. And you look at the pictures of the Buffalo soldiers and the wool uniforms, and you think, how did they do that? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine what they all smelled like after a summer.
It's probably good you can't. You don't
No,
want
no,
to.
no.
My mom's folks, she grew up in Winslow primarily. And when we would go up to spend summers with her folks, it was hotter than heck. They had oscillating fans, and that was it. And that was bad enough. Any
Wow.
worse than that? Yeah, no swamp cooling. Although swamp cooling has a place. If I had a house with a swamp cooler I could use most of the year and electric AC, that would be pretty cool now at this point.
Yeah.
But we will see. Um, Tell me some of the places you like to go when you're not knocking on doors or working. Give me a couple of restaurants. Give me a couple of cities.
Well, my first choice would be Sedona. I just feel like Sedona is just the place to go and reset yourself. When you feel like it's been too much in the city, just go get away. Take some time to just center yourself and I don't know, just breathing that fresh air, seeing the beauty of the majestic rocks. Um, it just has a feeling to it the second you drive into it.
Oh, that's lovely. Terrific. We have a photograph of you there, which is nice.
Yes.
Glad we do. Is there a place you go every time to eat, or does it just totally depend?
Sometimes I go to Indian Gardens. I love to just have
Ah,
a cup of coffee out there on the patio and people watch and you see the butterflies flying through the flowers and it's just nice.
that's neat. And you have butterflies here?
We do. So
Tell me
we're
about
on
that.
So Arizona, of course, is on the migration track for all the butterflies. And then every spring, me and the kids get caterpillars that we see go through their stages and then they turn into butterflies. And if it's a great year with wildflowers in the spring, we'll go for a little drive and then we'll release them and send them on their way.
That is such a beautiful. I've never known anybody who did that. I love that you do that. That is marvelous. Hart Prairie up outside Flagstaff has a lot of butterflies.
Oh,
And I remember taking our kids there. They do nature hikes. And my son Rye was really happy because a lot of blue butterflies kind of clustered around him and he felt all popular. So it's good to be in nature. And when you mentioned the sunsets, it reminded me that I've always sort of taken umbrage at Montana being the big sky state. And a couple of years ago, I got to go with my dad. A lot of people love Route 66, and Route 66 has a lot to love, but he was an 89 guy. He had grown up on US 89, and there's actually a US 89 uh, group. And so he wanted his only bucket list item was to go to Canada on 89, and we did. And it was really fun for me to see the skies in Montana and be so glad they were no bigger than ours. They put it on their license plate, doesn't make them any bigger.
No.
And I agree with you about our sunsets. Nobody does sunsets like Arizona.
No.
And yeah, that's so true. I did a book some years ago about communitarianism, which I'd never heard of till the book. And I think I've been a journalist most of my life, but my favorite quote was from a woman in that book, and she lives in Holbrook. And her husband was from Hawaii. And so their deal was they would get married if she would go to Hawaii every summer and learn how to make the food. And she said, absolutely. And then she said her husband was the coach at the high school in Holbrook. And so every summer they would go. And she said, and then we would come back and we would sit in our yard and we would watch the sunset and we would look at one another and say, now this is paradise.
Oh, that's
And I
beautiful.
thought, oh, and every time I go to Holbrook, I try to get there and I can't quite get where she got. But I was coming back with my daughter from Taos and the sunset was pretty great in Holbrook. And so maybe you just have to make sure you're there at the right time of day and then you get it. And there are so
Exactly.
many little towns in Arizona that are worth seeing, neat places. And
Definitely. I know I haven't been to Oatman yet, but that's on my bucket list with the boys.
terrific. And that's donkeys?
Yes, they have all the wild burros in the street, and I heard that they'll steal your ice cream, so I know the boys want to go see that.
Take extra ice cream or get extra ice cream. Hold
Exactly.
right there. We're going to take a quick break and come back. So hang on. As the podcast partners of AZ250, we're excited about Fitness 250. Banner Health sponsors this invitation to explore healthy habits as we count down to America's 250th birthday, July 4th. You can join about 60,000 Arizonans that are Banner team members. They show up every day with compassion and dedication to care for people all around our state. Banner wants to celebrate Arizona's enduring spirit, showing in service and perseverance. Join us, 250. Oatman, that's a fun place to have on the list, and you've been to Tombstone. What about Prescott or I'm trying to think. Have you been to the little pioneer village up north? Probably not, because you're way out east.
Yeah,
Or
I haven't been there. I've taken the boys up after a big snowstorm up to Prescott just to go throw snowballs for a day.
marvelous. I took our kids to Prescott for snow. That's wonderful. And that courthouse square
Yes,
and
exactly.
and ice cream. Ice cream there is good. No donkeys, but good ice cream.
Yeah.
um, we don't have to go deep into politics, but I love that you're giving your boys that experience and that you did it because your family's just always been part of the community.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, I remember growing up and we would have civil discourse discussions at the Thanksgiving Day table, and it wasn't as divisive as I think it is nowadays. So I want them to see a different side of it, and that, no matter what, we all want the same things in life. We want to be safe. We want to have, shelter and education, and we want to thrive. So I think when we can strip down all the differences and concentrate on the similarities, we can have those civil discussions.
That is beautiful. I could not agree with you more heartily. I've always wanted to run for legislature. And my first job was in Green Valley, and I remember getting to go up and watch the legislature swear in. and just thinking, God, what would that be like? That's amazing. And it is. And I love that you're willing to do it. And especially because you don't get to know you're going to win. And so that's a whole nother lesson.
I say it's the longest job interview. You're you're running for a year, you don't know whether you're going to win, and sometimes you don't even know the day of the interview whether you've won. We have to count the votes for a number of days after. So,
That's true. And you're taking your sons through that process.
I
That
am.
is just so inspirational and impressive to me. It's marvelous.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And you're creating some great citizens. One of the things I wonder about, and maybe I think too much, but as I've gotten older, and especially in the last couple of years, I've learned a lot in the last couple of years that I wished I had learned sooner. So you've got 8-year-olds. What are you trying to give them that maybe you didn't have that you want to make sure they don't have to learn much, much later?
I think the understanding that, I used to always hear my grandparents say health is wealth. And I always took it for granted. You're young, you're invincible. And then as I've been able to watch things with, whether someone's sick or them even as babies in the NICU,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
to come into the world as 3 pounders and to
Hmm.
fight from the first breath until they left the hospital. And I just think that there really is something to that saying that it comes down to, your health is the blessing, and that we have to always look out for it and be conscious about it, take care of our bodies, take care of what we put into our bodies, and just raise them with that in mind.
That is wonderful. How long were they in the NICU?
43 days.
Good gosh. So
So
you
they
had to
can
go down there?
yeah, I basically lived at the hospital. Uh, and then I'm, pumping for twins. So it was like I was literally there nonstop. And
Holy
then
cats.
they have thankfully they have what they call nesting rooms so that the families can stay together before they go. Get used to the fact that you're going to have not have 24/7 nursing care when you leave the hospital.
I didn't think about
And
that.
yeah, and the two babies crying at once. And so the hospital was very wonderful to us. And we're
That's
very grateful to all of the NICU nurses.
lovely. So nice. Um, what about holidays? Extended family trips?
Yeah, so my parents divorced when I was 6 going on 7. My dad was in Arizona for a while and then he moved. So he was out of state. So we would go on holidays. And then he ended up moving to Connecticut
Wow.
when I was on the East Coast for college. Drive every Thanksgiving. And that was always fun because I'd be going over the bridge in New York with the Thanksgiving Day parade floats the night before.
Really?
View of the Macy's Day Parade.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I've never seen the mace. I mean, I've seen it on TV only, but
Yeah. And then
neat.
it was funny because some Thanksgivings we'd wake up and there'd be like wild turkeys in the backyard. And I'm like, do they know what day it is? Like, not the day to be hanging out.
Where was that?
That was in Weston, Connecticut.
Okay. Wild turkey. I have a friend who lives down in the Chiricahuas, a guy named Rick Taylor, who is a expert bird watcher. And I did a story for Arizona Highways about him. And he had to figure out how to let other birds get food because wild turkeys want it all.
Yes.
And so various heights and various chicken wire that little birds can go through and just all kinds of things. It's not easy to feed birds in Arizona, I guess. You have to want to. But you've done butterflies too, and that's very cool.
Yeah, right now we have a family of quail that come in to our yard for a quail block, and they just had little hatchlings. So they're teeny tiny. They are so cute.
Oh, how fun. We had quail one year, and when the babies were tiny, they looked like they were little balls rolling. I couldn't even see their feet.
Yeah,
They were just
yeah,
itty
they're
bitty,
just
itty
like
bitty.
fluff balls.
And then one of the parents would sit on our fence and keep lookout. They do that too?
Yes, the dads watch over.
How marvelous. And your sons are getting all of that.
Yeah, they love it.
I hope and believe that as our society evolves, we realize that animals are a lot more than just a food source, that they are also communities, and that we will probably, I believe, as the vegetarian options expand and a lot of other things are possible, that our kids will make better decisions, have better options. I mean, I remember when I was little, and I remember telling my kids sunscreen hadn't been invented yet. And I know that a lot of people can have a lot of things that are wrong, but in some ways, I think we're so much farther ahead in sunscreen and food choices and things like that.
I agree.
Yeah, I was on the Arizona Trail Board for a while because I had done a special decades ago when the trail was being built. And we had a guest on who does the veterans program on the trail. And there are not many scenic trails in the nation, and we have one. If your boys learn how to be stewards, what would that involve? What is that? What does that look like?
I think always making sure our natural spaces are protected for everybody to enjoy. I think we're unfortunately at a point where some of our parks are getting shut down, and so, or they're really expensive that not everybody gets access to. So I think always having some protections for the future, for the long term,
I love that. Yeah, terrific.
especially as we're getting more growth in the state. We've had, at least here in the valley, we've seen unbelievable growth since when I grew up in Chandler. It was predominantly farming and ranching, and now it's the tech corridor of the state.
Yeah.
And people that would move here now wouldn't believe that Gilbert was the hay capital of the country at one point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My kids were talking the other day about when we had a white standard poodle, so a 50-pound, and I took him to see my daughter's kindergarten class, and a little boy was walking with an aide, and he said, "Look, a sheep." And I thought, he probably saw a white woolly thing in a storybook, and he probably, I mean, you don't see sheep in Phoenix anymore. You have to go find them. And thank God for zoos, I guess. As I say that out loud, I feel a little guilty, but it's a good opportunity.
Exactly.
Have you ever stopped at the Picacho ostrich thing?
I did. I did for the lorikeet feeding.
Oh, I didn't
The
know there.
rainbow lorikeets. Yeah.
Okay.
The one time I had a Canadian friend visiting, and so we were driving down to Tucson, and we stopped, and it was the day it was
Oh,
closed.
shoot.
But I was trying to show her the
Because
ostriches.
I have been so impressed with feeding those animals that there are various places. And then I don't know if Arizona's on the list.
Well, I've done Arizona with the kids where we've driven through, and
Terrific.
yeah.
Oh, good. When I was a kid, there was a deer farm. I don't know if there still is.
Yeah, the deer farm's still there. We went up.
Okay.
We usually go up to Williams around the holidays, and then we always visit the deer farm.
Nice. Well, I love all of that. Thank you, Kristie.
Thank
Thank you for being a mother. Thank you for running for office. Thank you for taking your sons with you. You're growing future Arizonans, and I am grateful to you, truly.
thank you. Thank you for redefining fierce for me today.
Oh, terrific. Onward. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'd really like to hear from you about anything this show led you to think about. Write to us at celebratingaz.com. The wizard behind making a conversation into a podcast is Tom Heidinger. The music comes from Daniel Blackney, and I'm Dana Cooper.